Yay, Shea's back.
I brought some stuff with me. So, you guys remember what I did, right?
Yeah,
I went to France and Spain and I did a pilgrimage.
Did go to France.
It's called the Way of St. James. So I walked from Lourdes in the south of France, almost 600 miles to Santiago, which is in northwest Spain. So I started like right here. I walked all the way, to here, and then along the yellow route, all the way to the red dot. So it's kind of like walking from here to Washington, D.C., is how far it is. But we have, when you go, in order to stay at the special hostels, you have to have this passport, and you get a stamp at each one. And they check the stamp to see if you walked from the last one. Does that make sense?
How do they know?
I'm gonna pass this around. Take a look at it. Look at all the stamps. And then when you get to Santiago, you get a certificate, or 3 certificates. So you get this one, and then this year is the 800th anniversary of St. Francis of Assisi. So I got this one as well. I'll pass those around. So the Camino de Santiago, you can see there's different routes you can take. Basically, it's a really old pilgrimage that people in the medieval times did. And like 1 million people in the medieval times would do it a year. So it was even bigger then than it is now. And basically, people would just leave their doorstep and start walking to Santiago. So there's different kind of highways that you can take. I took the Camino Frances, which is the most popular route. But you can start in Paris, you could start in Barcelona, you could start in Lisbon, you can start in London and take a boat if you want to. Pretty cool. Go to the next slide. So this is me in Lourdes, which is like the most beautiful place you could ever go to in your entire life. Anybody know what happened in Lourdes? It's a pilgrimage site in and of itself. Yeah.
Blessed Mother appeared to
Saint Bernadette.
Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. And in order to prove to the bishop that she appeared, she put a spring there. And the spring has been associated with miracles. And you can still go to the spring and drink from the water and bathe in the spring, which is really awkward because you're bathing in front of people. But it's okay.
You see anybody do that? You bathe?
I did it.
You did it?
Yeah.
Was it fun? Sorry,
Huh?
Was anybody else there?
Oh, yeah. That's a story for later.
That's a story.
So I started in Lourdes and I just started walking. And I was like, didn't really know what I was doing. So it took me probably 10 kilometers to finally find like the path, which was really, really scary. And then, so 7 days later, I ended up in Saint Jean-Pied-de-Port, which is a town in the south of France as well, but it took me 7 days to get there. And it's where most people start the Camino. So I basically walked by myself for 7 days without seeing really. There was one other guy that was walking with me, but he spoke very little English, so I didn't really get to talk to him until I got to Saint Jean-Pied-de-Port, and then there was like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pilgrims ready to walk. And the town is really, really cool. It's like built for the Camino, so like you have just shops and all these places to stay and all these places to eat, all these places to buy stuff for the Camino. And there's like this like excitement. You can feel the excitement in the city with all the people ready to move on and start the journey. Let's go to the next one. This is me. So from Saint Jean-Pied-de-Port, you walk to Roncesvalles, which is a town in Spain. So you actually cross the border. But in order to cross the border, you have to climb 1,600 meters, which is like 5,000 feet of give or take a few. So a mile. Almost a mile. Up. Like up. So I walked 27 kilometers, which is like 17 or 18 miles, but it was all straight up a mountain. So it was really hard. So I took a picture. That's about halfway up the mountain. And I decided to take a picture because I thought it was really pretty. So that's like the hardest day. So I'm going to go to the next one. So I talked about a little bit of the history of the pilgrimage. It started in medieval times, but I haven't really said why people do the pilgrimage. It's to Santiago de Compostela, which is where the apostle St. James was buried. We were talking about apostles earlier. So one of the apostles was James. And so you walk to where he was buried. And it was pretty... most people actually on the trail didn't know that, which is really sad. So when you get to Santiago, you go to where he's buried, and then there's a bust, like just his head and his shoulders, and you go and you hug St. James when you get there. So when you're on the trail, you're constantly praying to St. James for his intercession. We have God's presence on the trail in 3 different forms. One form is his presence in nature and the beauty of nature. And that's one of the things that I really saw was his presence in the mountains, in the animals, in the rivers, and just the flat land. It was pretty amazing to see just just the beauty of the world and God's creation. Another way I saw beauty, or another way I saw God was from man-made things. In Spain, the church is really old there. So the churches themselves are really old there, and they're amazing. They're so beautiful. And they're all made of gold. Like, I'm not just talking about like a little bit of gold. It is like all gold. Nothing but gold everywhere in these churches. And it's just incredible. But I thought that picture was really, really pretty. We were climbing on top of a mountain. It was a really, really rainy and hard day. And we got to the top of the mountain, and I saw the cross. And this was like, reminded me why I was here, why I was there. And it was sort of an inspiration, of why I went. So, and then probably the biggest one that I saw God is in other people. When you do it, I went by myself. So I was totally alone going. And then you end up meeting people. And you see God's presence in those people. And they see God's presence in you as well. Which is, it's amazing to think that they saw God's presence in me. But this picture is from, that's when I actually arrived in Santiago. So I'd walked almost 600 miles, and that was just the end. And somebody was kind enough to go to the top of the basilica and take our picture on this like arriving. And when I arrived, this is actually really cool. When I arrived, it had rained for 3 days straight. So it was like just miserable, just completely miserable. And we got there. As soon as I saw the city, or on top of a mountain, I saw the city, and the rain stopped. We get closer to the city, and right when we saw the cathedral basilica, we went through a tunnel, and there was a guy there playing the bagpipes. Just like the most epic bagpipes you could ever imagine. And the sun came out, and then I made some friends, and they arrived a day before us, and they were there to greet us when we arrived. So it was just like, sun came out, bagpipes playing, friends there to greet you. It was perfect. And we made it there for noon mass. So the bells are ringing on the cathedral as well. So it was like, bells ring, bagpipes, sun, friends. That was perfect. And then I walked into the cathedral, and it was amazing. Every cathedral that I went in Spain felt really cold and not very inviting. But for some reason, that cathedral just felt like like home almost. Like it was just, I walked in and I just wanted to stay there forever. So that's me arriving in Santiago. That's me in front of it. Unfortunately, they were doing construction work, so you couldn't even see the bell towers because they had scaffolding all over it. But I really just wanted to answer questions that you guys had tonight. Yeah.
How long was the total trip?
The total trip or the walking?
Like just the whole thing, and then
50 days. So I flew into Paris. I spent a day in Paris, and I took a train to Lourdes, spent a day in Lourdes, and then I walked for 39 days. And then I spent about 5 days in Ireland. And in Ireland, I actually did some cool stuff too. I saw St. Patrick's grave and where he started his ministry. There's a church there still where he started his ministry, which is amazing because how many people are Irish? St. Patrick's the reason you're Christian. Huh?
I'm part Irish.
Part Irish, yeah. So St. Patrick is like the reason you're Christian, probably. And I saw where that started.